Today we are going to study two suttas from SD 42. It is Sutta chapter 4 and 5, SD 42.4, SD 42.5. They're two short suttas that are closely related to each other, and they deal with what's called the perception of impermanence. So here I've used the term perception of impermanence rather broadly. It includes reflection on death also. Okay? And this begins on page 22 of the book. The first sutta is entitled Upatissa Sutta, S21.2. Okay? And the second sutta is called Ananda Jara Sutta, S848.41. If we ask ourselves what is the most important Buddhist practice that we all should do, I mean, let us not talk about philosophy or theory, something we can really do as Buddhists, and we should practice as Buddhists. What is that? It is not chanting or even studying suttas, important as they may be. This practice is called the perception of impermanence. In fact, you can find the whole chapter in the Samyutta, chapter 25. There are 10 suttas there, which in a sense give us a choice of 10 methods of practice of reflecting on impermanence. Why is reflecting on impermanence so important? Well, it's the simplest and yet overarching and underlying practice as Buddhist. It guarantees, and I underline the word guarantees, according to the sutta, or suttas rather, that we will attain string winning in this life itself. How is that so? Well, the explanation is quite simple. If we regularly reflect on impermanence, whatever happens to us, we reflect on impermanence. For example, the 8 winds, the gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and ill fame, joy and happiness. These 4 pairs of winds which blow in opposite directions, they are all impermanent. Life and death itself, they are impermanent. So if we constantly reflect in this way in our daily life, one simple way of putting it is that we de-traumatize ourselves. We, in a sense, we prepare ourselves for whatever can happen or will happen to us, to our loved ones, or anything, anywhere around us, anything around us. So we are not shocked by things which don't work our way, by failure, by difficulties, by even looking at ourselves, how we change, our sufferings, and so on and so forth. We're not shocked by it, because we understand everything is changing. And this is one thing we can't deny. We can deny God, and we can rightly deny God, but we cannot rightly deny impermanence. It's always there around us. For that reason, in the 10 suttas, they have one message, same message, only the method is different. The Buddha says, whether you use faith or you use wisdom, the practice will still bring the same benefit. Practice through faith, that means, well, some people, they will say, okay, I accept the fact that everything is impermanent. I can understand it, because wherever you look around you, you see impermanence. Or this other person who is strong in the wisdom faculty, this person may say, I want to study more about this. I want to see what suttas talk about this. Or I want to find out what science has to say. Go ahead, you do your research, use your wisdom aspect. Either way, you find impermanence is a fact. It's not a theory. It's not fiction. It's a fact. It is something we face every day, every moment. Change is something that must occur for us to exist. Change must occur for anything to be meaningful. Without change, life has no meaning. Everything is changing. So when we reflect in this way, we are in touch with reality. At the same time, because we are not traumatized by changes. We don't blame anybody for anything. Buddhists don't blame the gods, they don't blame themselves. If we do blame, in inverted commas, we blame conditions that bring about changes. But even then, we don't blame, there's nothing to blame change, that's nature of reality. So we simply reflect on all these changes. So our mind is at peace. We are at peace. We don't get angry with situations. We might feel a little sad occasionally, it's quite normal. But we are not angry, we don't feel negative emotions, because this is what endangers us, that give us a kind of bad rebirth or even bad states of being in this life itself. So when we reflect on impermanence, the Buddha says, in this life itself you attain stream winning. Stream winning is a metaphor, meaning to go into the boat that flows down the stream, and as you know, the stream flows naturally, it goes into the ocean of nirvana, if you like. So, stream winning is the very first step in the journey towards self-awakening, towards overcoming all our sufferings and understanding ourselves in the true sense of the word, so that we do not suffer through our own wrong actions or even right actions, and we are liberated, in other words, in this life itself. And then the Buddha made a very remarkable statement. He says, if you do not get stream winning in this life itself, you will certainly get it at the moment of passing away. Now when I saw this last line, I'm very convinced. I say, yeah, that makes sense. In other words, the person who practices the perception of impermanence regularly, constantly, when this person is passing away, well, he knows this is the nature of life, he dies at peace, his mind is at peace, then he moves on, is reborn in a happy state as a stream winner. That means at the most he has 7 more lives to go, and all those 7 lives are, in a sense, good lives, lives which where he can practice spirituality, he will not get himself into serious trouble, and if he does commit any mistake, what shall we say, lapses of mindfulness, he will at once know it, and he will kind of like own it up, and he will correct himself. So basically he's a moral person. So this is what's called stream winning. So we can imagine his perception of impermanence is a very important practice. Otherwise, there's no way out, right? I mean, it's amazing. You find if you move around, and if you ask Buddhists, many Buddhists will tell you they don't know what Buddhism is. That's the first thing. This is one of the very rare religions where the followers don't know anything about any religion. Not the majority of it, They will tell you, I don't know about my religion. And worse, some of the speakers will take the mic and tell the audience, I don't know about Buddhism, but here I am, I'm going to talk about Buddhism to you, So you find this a very strange behavior, which definitely none of us should condone, because we say this is insulting the audience. You should definitely prepare what you're going to talk, and you definitely should know what you're talking about. Ideally, we should have Buddhists who are trained in the suttas to teach the Dharma regularly. So you find in the temples, people teach Buddhism ad hoc, more based on popularity and social status than their understanding and experience of Buddhism. It's a very big, very serious setback for Buddhists as a social community. We do not have a pastoral system, we do not have full-time lay Buddhist teachers who are supported by the community. We have a few exceptional people, yes, but it's the exception to the rule, rather. So in other words, we do not have a regular group or college of trained, qualified, experienced teachers, lay teachers, who can teach the community. Of course, we do have monks too, they do teach, but lay people are more accessible. They can talk about anything that the lay person faces. It's very difficult for a monk, for example, to talk about, to counsel marriage, or even to talk about marriage. Because if he talks too much about marriage and too accurately, people will be wondering, how did he know all these things? On the other hand, if he doesn't talk accurately and usefully, it won't be very helpful. So it is caught in this dilemma. So there are some things which laymen would serve better. Whereas for monks, of course, they're supposed to be meditating, gaining a deep level of peace, and inspiring others to be happy. And when they teach, they also exude a peacefulness. This is very wonderful in the case of a renunciant. Okay? So they're also very good teachers in their own right in that way. So we need this balance between lay Buddhist workers and the monastic workers. So these are some aspects of Buddhist pastoral work, teaching work which we need to consider in time to come, definitely. So the two suttas today we have deals with the practice of not just lay people but also of the monastics, of renunciants, because this is a very basic practice, and even for those who are unable to meditate. But this is something we keep on reminding ourselves in our words. But if you practice this regularly, you find it helps you to practice the more difficult meditations like breath meditation, loving kindness. So let's look at first sutta, Upatissa Sutta. Here, Upatissa is the name of a person. In fact, it's the original name of Sāriputta. Sāriputta, interestingly, although the name is so familiar to us, it's not really a personal name. It means, it's actually an appellation. It means the son of Sāri. Sāri was Sāriputta's mother. So you have, in the suttas, very often someone is referred to son of somebody, even daughter of somebody, or the father of somebody or mother of somebody. Right? So Sāriputta is the son of Sāri. His original name is Upatissa. So this is, look at the reference, it is S 12.21.2, right? So you either remember the name or you remember the reference. And the theme here, this is the main idea, Sāriputta's perception of the Buddha. What does Sāriputta, how does he reflect on the Buddha? Here, clearly the sutta records a time when the Buddha, when both of them were very old, probably in the last few years of the Buddha's life, as we will presently see. Sāriputta was the Buddha's right-hand monk, the wisest of the monks after the Buddha. Okay? So this is, he's talking to the monks now. Okay, let's look at the sutta, page 22. Originating in Savatthi, so this is just telling us where this teaching originated. Savatthi is an ancient place in northern India. There the Venerable Sāriputta addressed the monks thus, Avuso Bhikshus. Right? Avuso is the name of address used among equals. You can translate as brothers or so if you like, or friends. Then the monks reply, Avuso. So here you see a kind of interaction, kind of communication. Avuso, the monks answered the Venerable Sāriputta in essence. The Venerable Sāriputta said this, Here Avuso, when I was in solitary retreat, a reflection arose in my mind thus. Is there anything in the world, on account of its change and becoming other or alteration, might cause sorrow, lamentation, physical pain, mental pain, and despair to arise in me? Alright, so here the Sāriputta is using teaching on his own experience, kind of questioning. Yeah. So notice here, even in the case of a saint, I mean, he's fully awakened, Sāriputta, just like the Buddha. He's not like a robot. He's not like, we can't say his thinking has stopped. Even the Arahat's thinking continues. But his thinking, of course, is refined, is happy, clear. And here he's using this clear thinking to teach the monks on impermanence. So he says, I ask myself this question, is there anything in the world that would make me really sad. Something that changes in the world, something that's impermanent in the world, that will sadden me. Is there such a thing? 3.2. Then also it occurred to me, there is nothing in the world on account of its change and becoming other would cause sorrow, lamentation, physical pain, mental pain, and despair to arise in me. I think we've got to add that would cause. I'll just make a note of that right now. Now, okay, here, this teaching is from personal experience. Okay, so it's a reflection actually. So here we can see a style of teaching where you talk about your experience and then you relate it to the Buddha's teaching. Okay, then Ananda, also present in the audience, asks Sāriputta a question. Okay, section 4. When this was said, the Venerable Ananda said this to the Venerable Sāriputta. Also Sāriputta, but what about the teacher himself? Wouldn't change and becoming other in him cause sorrow, lamentation, physical pain, mental pain, and despair to arise in you? Right? So here we have Ananda. Ananda is very concerned about the Buddha. By this time we know, of course, Ananda also is the body servant of the Buddha. In other words, he takes care of the Buddha personally. He is not yet an arhat. He's only a stream winner. He's a saint, but not an arhat. He's on the way. Several more lives at the most. You might say that after the Buddha, Ananda is the first bodhisattva in a sense, because he sacrificed his arahathood, or rather he postpones his arahathood, his full awakening, to serve the Buddha, to take care of the Buddha. That's one way of piously talking, okay? But if you talk in real terms, you can say that Ananda was very attached to the Buddha in a spiritual sense, okay? You might even say that Ananda has great love for the Buddha in a spiritual sense. He's very caring of the Buddha. As a young servant, caretaker, doctor, nurse would care for an elder teacher. I mean, when we value a teacher, we want to make sure this teacher is healthy, he's able to give teachings. So Ananda is like that. It's not only that, but in many places in the suttas, we are told how aware Ananda is of the Buddha. And I can relate to this from my own experience. For example, I remember when I was very young, as a late teenager, I used to take care of a monk, and he would sleep in one room and I would sleep in the next. And the moment he gets up, I would at once get up too. And then one day he told me, it's okay, you can go back to sleep, because I read some of those, how you should take care of a teacher. You should kind of rise before the teacher. Ananda is so aware of his teacher. Every body change in the Buddha, Ananda is aware, things like that. It's almost connected, So he was very caring. So, but I found it happened to me also. I just kind of, this one gets up, I also got up because I thought he might need something. He's quite old himself. So Ananda is so connected with the teacher in that sense. There's, like I said, it's easier to understand his state of mind if you use the word attachment in a spiritual sense. And because of the attachment, he, in a sense, he's kind of stuck with stream-winning. Okay, stream-winning is a great level of awakening already. Right? It's a sure, it's a guarantee towards further development. But because he is attached to the Buddha, he remains at that level. Because as a stream-winner, you still have desires of not crazy bad desires. Basically, what we can say, we are still capable of enjoying sensual pleasures. Just like King Bimbisara, just like Chitta the householder, like any of us, good lay Buddhists who have families, who run businesses, who are students, who are businessmen, we go about our daily business, but we can also be stream-winners, have families and so on. This is I call this package A, the awakening program. Yeah? In other words, you live within the ambit of the 5 precepts. and then within 7 lives you go on to let go of the other fetters, and then you gradually become more, renounce more and more, so to speak. Package B is the highway approach, in other words, the monastic approach, full renunciation approach. You have the monastic, the monks and nuns, who get ordained, who live celibate lives, who do lots of meditation, try to attain jhanas, and it's very important they attain jhanas. If they attain jhanas, then they enjoy such a high level of mental pleasures that they no more need physical pleasure of the body, because they have the natural ability to enjoy this high level of mental pleasure. Whereas in the case of lay people, we're still caught up with the world, but we're still capable of awakening in this life. So Ananda is very concerned. He says, well, what about the Buddha? Don't you feel sad to see the Buddha growing old and so on? Then Sāriputta gives quite a dramatic and very important reply. In a sense, this is the key idea in the sutta. Section 5. Avuso, this is Sāriputta addressing Ananda. Even change and becoming other in the teacher himself would not cause sorrow, lamentation, physical pain, mental pain, and despair to arise in me. However, this would occur to me. Even the teacher, so mighty, so powerful, so glorious, has vanished. All right? But if the Blessed One were to live for a long time, that would be for the good and happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the good, welfare, and happiness of devas and humans, in other words, of heaven and earth. So, what is Sāriputta saying here? He says, well, I don't feel sad if the Buddha grows old, but that's the nature of things. I mean, it'd be rather strange if Sāriputta would say, yeah, it's terrible if the Buddha were to grow old, and so on. Then we say, an Arahat also is so emotional, Arahat have feelings too, yes. For example, you poke a needle into an Arahat, he would feel it. He won't flinch, he won't scream. When for example, there was a story, this crazy man, he heard that Arahats are very calm people, don't react to any negative remarks, anything bad you do to them, they won't react. And he was stupid enough, or he had the hubris to experiment. So he went behind Sāriputta and gave him a hard bang, a kind of slap on Sāriputta's back, and hoped. Then he waited to see how would Sāriputta react. Sāriputta didn't do anything, he just moved on, He probably knew what's going on anyway, he just moved on. Then this man asked, and asked, don't you know I slapped you? Then Sāriputta said, yes, I did. And then he said, then why didn't you react? And then Sāriputta said something like, what is there to react, I mean, you slapped me, that's all. He said, you slapped my back, that's all, something like that. So this man got a shock, this man said, my goodness, he didn't get angry at all. Then you might say that a cold shiver, a cold, feeling ran down his spine, if you like. He suddenly realized what a stupid thing he has done. And he quickly, kind of went down on his knees and asked for forgiveness. He said, oh, please forgive me, I should have done such a terrible thing. And as usual, he says, please, may I offer you dana tomorrow morning, okay? And so this is to show Sāriputta didn't get upset, And there are many stories like this to show Sāriputta's patience, humility. We often know Sāriputta to be the foremost of the monks in wisdom. Actually, he has another wonderful quality in equal measure, that is humility and compassion, right? So we can say actually his twin foremost qualities, his foremost quality is the twin quality of wisdom and compassion. I've talked about this elsewhere in some other studies, so I won't repeat it here. So here we see Sāriputta saying, well, the Buddha has to pass away. But of course, if the teacher were to live long, it would be wonderful, it would be for the benefit of the people. At this point, the Buddha is still alive, because we know Sāriputta predeceased the Buddha. Sāriputta died before the Buddha's time. So he says, wonderful, the Buddha could live on. And when he finished speaking, the Ananda responds and praises him. Ananda says, indeed, it must be that I-making, mind-making, and the latent tendency of conceit have been fully uprooted in the Venerable Sāriputta for a long time. Okay, so this is according to what Ananda has learned. What he's saying, this idea of self-view and thinking in terms of an I has been given up by Sāriputta. It's no more attached. Okay? Now here we are talking about a stream winner who praises an arahant. Okay? Therefore, even change and becoming other in the teacher himself would not cause sorrow, lamentation, physical pain, mental pain, and despair to arise in him. So here we see this wonderful conversation between Sāriputta and Ananda on impermanence for our benefit. So there's something to reflect on. As we read through this story, we reflect on how calm Sāriputta is on in the face of the fact of impermanence. Any questions here?
Yeah, so my question is, the Buddha has passed away, and some Buddhists think that the Buddha has passed away, he can't help us, therefore they go and pray to some other devas or some other Buddhas.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we correct them?
But I think one important way here is Buddhist counseling. We try to ask this person what really is troubling this person. Buddhist counseling is different from clinical counseling in the sense that it takes shorter time. Very often you can do it in just one session. So in other words, you help this person to look deep into himself or herself to see the roots of the problem. Why is he thinking like that? Because what this person is looking for are only symptoms. They're not the real problem, you know. For example, this person say, I don't have a job, or I want money, or I feel unhappy because I don't have a girlfriend, things like that, you know. So these are just symptoms, you know. So we want this person to see very clearly the context of the situation, how to look things broadly, and then to work his way within that context, right? So we want this person to think for himself and not to think there's an easy way out by relying on agency. Okay, this is a very interesting idea here on agency. Other religions use the idea of agency. You're in trouble, get help from outside. Of course, it is all. We can still give help to people, you know. But what kind of help can we give? Two kinds. One is sometimes you give this help. This person may continue to need this help from you. Now that's not very good, because this person becomes dependent on you. Whatever help we give in a Buddhist way is to make sure this person can do it himself. So we help others to help themselves. This is Buddhist counseling. Yeah. So we try to get this person to see the bigger problem. Many religions, especially the God religions, they tell you just pray. God will do everything for you. Now, that's a very imaginative statement. You know, they do not know what they're talking about. So, and it can be very funny, very ludicrous to say the least, right? I mean, people just say things without really thinking deeply what they mean. As long as people are unthinking, they say, oh yeah, this is great, you know, this God can give us everything, you know. But if you think carefully, it's not, things don't work that way. It is how we look at life, how we act or do not act, that suffering and happiness come to us. We are responsible for our own affairs, in other words. We can be responsible for our own affairs. If not, then it is fatalism, right? Then we don't have to do anything. Things will just happen anyway. Then there's no hope, right? The Buddha says because we are capable of goodness, because of change, therefore we can learn to become better people. So we don't need this other being to help us, this agency. So the Buddha is not an agent. He's a teacher, yes. A teacher pointing to within ourselves in that sense. Okay? So we don't need to worship the Buddha. In one of my reflections I wrote, the Buddhas die, we worship them, right? Of course what I mean here is that the Buddhas don't need your worship. In the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, towards the end, the Buddha says the supreme worship, the Parama Puja, is not like the gods showering beautiful flowers from the heavens, wafting fragrant scented wood in the air, playing all kinds of soothing, beautiful music in honor of the Buddha. The Buddha was lying down there, he's going to pass away. The Buddha said, no, this is not the way to honor the Buddha. The greatest honor we can give the teacher is to practice for awakening, because that's what the Buddha came to the world for. So practicing the teaching is the best way to honor the Buddha. Why? Because you begin to solve the problem at the root also. So as a Buddhist, therefore, we should not be worshipping Buddha statues and all these things. So in many ways we are disobeying the Buddha. So I'm reflecting on another reflection. Buddhism, how Buddhists disobey the Buddha. In fact, if you look around today, every Sunday you go around the temples, you find fantastic ways of disobeying the Buddha. Number one, you have Buddha images, where the Buddha say no images. Number two, people are chanting. Buddha say no need to chant, just you chant to remember the suttas, yes, but not for magical powers, things like that. And what else? Monks don't use money, and you see monks driving cars and so on and so forth. So you have a long list of disobediences towards the Buddha. So the Buddhists are the most disobedient of religious practitioners, so to speak. So those who are really obedient to the Dharma are the exceptions, if you like. But there's still hope. That's why the sutta is still available. So if you look at the sutta, you say, oh yeah, I can help myself. I don't need images. I don't need magical things. I can help myself. And then you find science coming in and helping you understand the nature of the world, nature of self. So everything fits in very nicely. You can notice in this new millennium, how science is growing so fast, and religion compared to 1,000 years ago has a very different role today. Thank goodness religion has lost its colonial power, its kind of power it had decades ago, where it could punish people just as a whim. There might come a time when science becomes so clear that people need religion less. Unfortunately, we can't say they don't religion at all, because there will be always people who are superstitious, who will use fear, who will con others. And religion is a great way of conning others, because we deal with imaginative ideas, things that you cannot prove. God idea, prayers, even karma and rebirth, you can't prove these things. But where karma and rebirth are concerned, my defense would be that these are better ideas than using other ideas. Okay, for example, if we talk about karma, whether karma is true or false doesn't matter, because the idea of karma, which tells us you are responsible for your own action, I think will make a more harmonious and effective society. And if you talk about rebirth, it explains a lot of difficult things which other theories will not be very helpful. Right? So even in the imaginative aspects of Buddhism, of early Buddhism, to be more exact, still kind of, you can say they're still helpful to that extent. Okay?